What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to ICNV Driversedition, and we got another interesting topic coming your way. So, you know the ZR1 has went around and hit a couple of the famous tracks, and we're doing some record-breaking track laps, we've heard. And the best part about it all, it's being done by non-professional race car drivers, but actually the engineering team. So, that information is not new to you. But the question was brought up today, or should I say I've been in a conversation for like the last 42 minutes with a couple of friends about, is what happened really impressive? Let's talk about it. So if this is your first time tuning into the channel, let's get through the formalities. My name is Sho. This is ICNV Driversedition. This is the interactive channel for car enthusiasts that love to drive cars to make you turn your head, that aren't your everyday people movers. But we're also an interactive channel, which means if you hit me up in the comments below or any one of my social media platforms, I will do my best to respond. And if the topic you bring up is interesting enough, just like this real life event, I will make a video on it. So, the C8 ZR1, we know this 1,064 horsepower monster that Chevy has built was going to do a lot of record-breaking things, or at least we believe that. And since it has come out, they've taken the camouflage off, and they're starting to hit tracks, and they're starting to put it on the road, and we're starting to see it more frequently drive around the city, the nation, the country. People are falling more in love with it, and some people are really starting to question it. And what do I mean by question it? Well, GM did announce the pricing on the new C8 ZR1. And honestly, I don't know what Corvette loyalists want, because considering where the C8 Z06 started at, the pricing of the C8 ZR1 to me just makes sense, especially for what you're getting. So now when we get to the realm of a $250,000 supercar, many people want to act like it should be $175,000, as if that was the target range of a car they're looking for. But we can get into that into another video. So since the pricing is so high, people are now trying to justify, or should I say dethrone it, before it even hits the street. So one of the conversations I just sat back or took part of was, do we really believe the 5 tracks it went to and the times it put down, were they really impressive? Let's talk about that. So for those of you that watched the video, if you haven't, go check out the C8 ZR1 video with the laps. I want to tell you this right here. They went out to Road America. At Road America, they put down a track time of 2:08:56. Why was this impressive? Well, that's a full 5 seconds faster than the previous record holder, which was a GT3 RS. But this is where the conversation starts to get interesting. The GT3 RS it beat, for those you don't know, the GT3 RS only makes 518 horsepower. So it took the Corvette team twice as much horsepower to beat out or dethrone the Porsche GT3 RS. So that brings up an interesting conversation, because 5 seconds is 5 seconds, and the 5 seconds is very, very impressive. But I believe what people really wanted to see was the C8 Z06 perform in a way where even if it knocked off a second off of that time, the C8 Z06 was the car that they were targeting or believing would have this type of success. So why do I have to now go out and pay for a $200,000, or should I say a $250,000 supercar, to knock off a car with 518 horsepower? Now, the specifics of it is, if you look dollar for dollar for what you're getting, you're getting a lot more car with the C8 ZR1. But when you look horsepower to horsepower or engineering to engineering, that's where the question comes up. So Porsche has done something amazing with a 6-cylinder. GM has pretty much figured out how to get the most, at least until now, out of an 8-cylinder. So which car is truly more impressive? And for a lot of people, I still believe the Porsche GT3 RS may be the more impressive car in this situation. Not denying the fact that what the ZR1 did was impressive, but to get the same results or to hold the record with a car with less than half the horsepower, Porsche engineering team may truly be better at this. And I can only imagine what they would have done with an 8-cylinder. Now this leads to the next conversation, or should I say the next track, Road Atlanta. Road Atlanta, they knocked off or dethroned what we would like to consider one of the best engineered cars ever made, which is the Porsche GT2 RS. And they beat it by 2 seconds. 2 seconds is 2 seconds. And again, well, I'll be honest with you. If the Z06 would have been in this conversation, you would have more enthusiastic Corvette fans following this. But the ZR1 is the one doing this, and we already know that's going to be the king of the hill. Now, again, we're talking about 1,064 horsepower. The GT2 RS is putting down 700 horsepower. So you're still talking over 300 horsepower more than what this car actually produces. To me, the GT2 RS was Porsche engineers showing what they can do with a 6-cylinder engine. And they got the most out of this engine, or should I say they got the best performance out of any car ever made. Maybe I'm going a little bit too far with that. But what they did with the GT2 RS, it's still remarkable to this day. And it's still the car that everybody chases if you're a true Porsche fan. So looking at this now, and I know we go back to the pricing points. The C8 ZR1 is definitely amazing. 2 seconds, but I don't know if 300 horsepower more can really, I guess, say 2 seconds is enough. But then here comes the GM, or should I say the Corvette family. These weren't professional drivers. These times put down by the Porsches that we discussed so far were professional drivers. So we can only imagine what will happen when you get a professional driver behind the wheel, especially since all these times I'm discussing today were actually achieved within the second or third lap of actually getting on the track. So it wasn't like they spent the whole day, multiple hours planning for this. These times were put down technically from let's not say a subpar, but a slightly more advanced driver, which we're talking about engineers, with not a lot of track time on the track. So what this car is achieving is remarkable. And dethroning the GT2 RS, that's quite remarkable as well. But is it enough? I mean, answer this. Are you really impressed? I'd like to take this moment to say thank you to all my military members and veterans, because we all know freedom isn't free. And because of you guys and the sacrifices that your families make, we get to enjoy this thing we call freedom, which we enjoy so much. So a big salute to all my military members, veterans, and family members who make the ultimate sacrifice. If you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, join the ICNV Driversedition community. If you hit me up in the comments below or on any one of my social media platforms, I will do my best to respond back. And if the topic is interesting enough, I will make a video on it. So reach out. Let's chat. But let's get back to this video. Well, I'm not going to lie to you. Knocking off those 2 Porsche times or record times held by the Porsches, I don't know how impressive that is to you. Like I said, that GT2 RS, 300 less horsepower, I would have preferred that be the 5-second gap. But would it have been a 2-second gap? It still makes me say Then we take a trip down to, or should I say we go to another track. We're talking about the Virginia International. And this is where they did 2 different laps. They did the, I want to say, the full course. But then when you go to the grand course, but they put down 2 times. One was 147.74, while the other was 232.30. And what's remarkable is, for the first time, we see another car brought into the mix, and it dethrones the Ford GT500, which has about 760 horsepower. But we all know that truly is more of a straight line car than it is a track course. But it put down an amazing number on the full course. But then when you go to the grand course, this time is very impressive. Only because the car it dethroned will cost you $1 million to own. And what I mean by that is it knocked off the McLaren Senna. And now the Senna, which is 781 horsepower, another car that hasn't quite cracked 1,000 horsepower, that the ZR1 only beat by 2 seconds. But if you ask me for all the impressive things I've seen with this car thus far, to me that is the one. Because I can own a car for $250,000 of the cost and beat $1 million car by 2 seconds. That's very impressive. Beating the Ford GT500, which I don't think any true track fan believes that Mustang is a real true track car. I don't know how impressive that is. Honestly, it's just something about saying a Corvette beating a Mustang that doesn't really sound impressive. It's what we expect to happen. So these track times is where the eyebrow raises, and we actually start to say, okay, that's kind of impressive. Now, maybe I should have said this earlier, but I literally left Watkins track for last to discuss. And the reason why I left Watkins track last to discuss is because the C8 ZR1 put down a track time for production cars that is the fastest track time put down at Watkins track. The problem with it is we really struggle to find what track time it beat. And there is just not enough information to fully disclose how impressive it is. But what I will sit there and say to you is, I did some research. I started digging. And I'll tell you, this was the most aggressive research I've done in a long time to find out a little bit of nothing. So the best I can give you about the times at Watkins is that the C8 ZR1 now owns the fastest production car time. What car is behind it? None other than the McLaren 765 LT, followed by the 2019 Porsche GT3 RS. We do not have the official time of the Porsche GT3 RS, but the only information I could find was from 2 years ago, back in 2022, in a Porsche forum, where someone was talking about the performance of the GT3 RS at Watkins. They never said an official time, but what they did say was, they say the car came in almost 7 seconds slower than the GT3R. For those of you that don't know, the GT3R is truly the GT3 RS, but I guess in an official track version of the car, whereas it's technically not street legal. So the GT3R times is available, and the GT3R times are as here. So if the GT3R performed there, that means the GT3 RS was here. So the McLaren has to be somewhere between here and here. And now I ask you again, which takes me back to what I said before. The track time difference wasn't that impressive. From a car with less than over half the horsepower, less than half the horsepower of the C8 ZR1, the C8 ZR1 didn't shine the way we feel it should have. I don't know. To me, when you double the horsepower, I want at least 10 seconds. I think 10 seconds would be a fair enough breakage. Now, when the C8 ZR1 knocked off that Ford Mustang, he did it by 9 seconds. That to me is impressive, but like I said before, a Corvette beating a Mustang doesn't sound too far-fetched. But if the Corvette would have knocked off any of those other cars by a full 9 seconds or more, I think that's where the impressiveness would have really shined. I think that's what the Corvette community is looking for. Honestly, I think that's what everybody else in the world is looking for. Although I know for all my track enthusiasts, you're going to say 2 seconds is 2 seconds. 0.2 of a second is 0.2 of a second. And a lot of these races that we see that we love to watch so much, especially on YouTube or from other content creators, these races are close. And what we go back to is which car actually won. And I agree with you. A win is a win, no matter how small that win is. But I believe a lot of the everyday people out there don't really embrace 2 and 3 second victories the way they do 9 and 10. And that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Were these 2 second victories really enough to make you say a C8 ZR1 is the answer, the vehicle you should own, or impressive enough to make you feel like Chevy engineers have shown they are the best engineers in the world? Or do you look at the cars that they are knocking off, especially the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, and say, this car produces less than half the horsepower of a C8 ZR1, and you are barely beating it? What does that say? Let me know which side of the fence that you're on. From the conversation I had with the 4 people I sat down with, it was split. And I'll be honest with you, they made some compelling arguments. And I can understand both stands. Because to me, some of these times are impressive and some of them aren't. Some of these cars it beat definitely make it impressive, and some of them it doesn't. And some of the performance makes me say, is it really worth buying a C8 ZR1 to get a 2 second recognition? Let me know your thoughts. ICNV Driver Edition. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, join the ICNV Driver Edition community. Like I stated before, this is a community for car enthusiasts that love to drive cars to make you turn your head, that aren't your everyday people movers. But we're also a community of interactive conversation from these car enthusiasts, which means if you hit me up in my comments below or any one of my social media platforms, I will do my best to respond. And if the topic and the conversation that we share is interesting enough, I may even shoot a video on it. Don't forget that we were all made in his image and given dominion over the world. So this means we weren't just meant to be. So chase your dreams, build your visions, never ever give up, and embrace your own identity. It is okay to be unique. He's not done with you, and he's definitely not done with me. So stay humble, stay focused, and stay blessed. And I will see you in these streets. Peace.